Hey folks, good day. My name is Greg McLawsen. I'm the Affidavit of Support lawyer. I've spent the past 10 years representing green card holders in federal lawsuits to enforce the USCIS Form I-864 Affidavit of Support. If you are working, can you get support under the Affidavit of Support? The famous law school answer that law school students and recent attorneys give all the time to every question under the sun is, it depends. Okay, well, what does it depend on? Let's look at that. Under the Affidavit of Support, a sponsor has the legal obligation to make sure that the sponsored immigrant has income equal to 125% of the federal poverty guideline. So that's like the core legal duty. Make sure that the immigrant has income at 125% of the poverty guideline or above. For a household of one under 2022 guidelines, that's $1,400 per month. When it comes to a lawsuit to enforce the Affidavit of Support, what the green card holder can financially recover from the sponsor is based on that 125% of the poverty guideline. And remember, the core term there is income. The sponsor has to maintain the income of the immigrant at 125% of the poverty guideline. Put differently, this is all based on what the immigrant's income is. She can get from the sponsor the difference between her income and 125% of the poverty guideline. So what does that mean for somebody who's working? Well, it means that if you are earning more than 125% of the poverty guideline, again, that's currently over $1,400 per month, at least for the period of time when you are earning at that level, that means you will not be entitled to financial support under the Affidavit of Support, because the sponsor doesn't have any obligation to you if your income is already above that 125% level. So does that mean you automatically don't have a claim, you don't have a basis for a lawsuit if you're earning more than $1,400 per month? No, not necessarily, because what happens in a lot of these lawsuits, I've seen it for a lot of my clients, is that somebody might be working now, but they have previous periods of unemployment in the past. The Affidavit of Support obligation goes into effect when somebody becomes a resident. Once the green card holder is issued, that validity date on the green card, it says valid from, that's what starts a sponsor's obligation under the Affidavit of Support. So what we see a lot of times is you've got a situation where somebody, oftentimes this is a marriage, the couple will split up, the immigrant will have a period of unemployment, often for more than a year, and then will eventually get back on her feet, find employment. And it's often during that time when she's got a more stable situation where I will end up talking to the green card holder about her rights under the affidavit. And somebody who is at that point employed perhaps may not have a current right to support on a monthly basis from the sponsor. But in that situation I was just describing, she might have had 12 months or multiple years where she was either completely unemployed or she was earning less than 125% of the poverty guideline. And she has a right to be able to go to the sponsor and ask for payment of that support that was due for those previous years. Court decisions are clear and pretty consistent that damages, that's the legal term for the financial support owed to the beneficiary, that damages are calculated on an annual basis. So if we have a situation where there are multiple years of financial support, you look at each year individually. 2019, what was the person's income? 2020, what was the person's income? 2021, what was the person's income? And for each one of those years, you calculate the difference between 125% of the poverty guideline and what the person was actually earning. And that is what they can recover in court. So again, the fact that somebody is currently working under the affidavit, if they're earning less than 125% of the poverty guideline, they have a claim for ongoing support on a monthly basis because they're not earning more than 125%. But even if they are currently earning more than 125% of the poverty guideline, they might have a claim against the sponsor for previous years of support. And we've seen cases where folks had many years of financial support that was owed to them under the affidavit of support, and they just didn't know about it. So I would encourage folks to take a careful look at their case, even if you are working right now. But if you had periods of unemployment in the past, talk to an attorney about whether you have an enforceable right that could recover support for those previous years. The last point I guess I would make is that you have to think also about the future value of claims under the affidavit of support. A sponsor's obligation continues until a green card holder either has 10 years of work history or becomes a US citizen. So if somebody's working right now, you have to also think about what their future looks like. A very common scenario that we will see is somebody who's working very low paying jobs right now and wants to be able to go back to school, maybe increase their English language ability. We'll have a lot of people with foreign degrees, like foreign medical degrees, and they want to go back to school so that they can be licensed and be able to work in the United States. Under the Leo v. Munn case from the Seventh Circuit and associated cases elsewhere, a sponsored immigrant does not have a legal obligation to be working if she elects not to. What that means is that it is possible for somebody to go back to school if that's what's appropriate for their career and pursue their degree while getting support from the affidavit of support sponsor. So sometimes we will see a situation where somebody had a period of unemployment, now they're working, but what they really want to be able to do is to either drop their hours or go as a full-time student for a while, earn a degree that they know will put them into a stable situation in the long run, and then go back into the workforce. In that situation, the person may be eligible for support from the affidavit of support sponsor while they go back to school to focus on their education that will get them a stable long-term employment situation. So there's one more situation where current employment doesn't necessarily sink your claim under the affidavit of support. If you have questions about the affidavit and enforcing it in federal or state court, feel free to drop into the comments. If you would like an individualized case assessment, we do Zoom consultations all across the United States, and I'm happy to chat with you. Just reach out on our website. Hope that's helpful, everybody, and have a good day.